How can you develop claims and counterclaims? In this lesson, you will learn to develop claims and counterclaims by selecting relevant evidence. So here's our prompt. After reading W.B. Du Bois' work, The Souls of Black Folk, of Our Spiritual Strivings, write an essay in which you support or refute the author's central claim that African Americans only need freedom, political power, and education to gain their rightful place in American society. Use valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence from the text to support your claim. So here we are in our writing process. First, you're supposed to read closely and analyze. Then, you generate and plan. Finally, you draft and revise. Third. And then finally, we edit and publish. So here we are. We're going to start generating evidence and text, and we're going to plan. So let's look at the prompt one more time. And we can see that here they're asking us to look at a specific text, and then they're asking us to analyze that text for something specific. At this point, the author's central claim. And from that language and the circumstances, we know that this is an academic paper, and our audience has high expectations for the quality of writing and the use of evidence. We know that all strong arguments include evidence. So here is just your argument, but then when you have an argument with evidence that supports both the claims and counterclaims, then you can look, your paper will be strong. Otherwise, it may appear weak and undeveloped. Good writers reread their text to pick out the best evidence and weave that text into their paper so it shows off their knowledge of the text and makes their evidence shine. We want the best evidence. So this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to highlight places where the text discusses your claims or counterclaims. And then we're going to ask, is this the best piece of text to support my thoughts? Then we're going to paraphrase the statement using only 5 to 7 words of direct quotation. Now let's look at our claim. Du Bois fails to offer any solution for the main problems he outlines: racism, hate, and the damage done by slavery. We need to prove that these are the main problems that he's outlining, so let's look for a place where he does that. Where in the text does Du Bois discuss this claim? I think this is one place where he says that youth shrunk into tasteless sycophancy, or into silent hatred of the pale world about them and mocking distrust of everything white, or wasted itself in a bitter cry, "Why did God make me an outcast and a stranger in mine own house?" This piece is filled with imagery about the pain felt by African Americans, and it is all written beautifully. But we want to show our audience that we have read and understood the text. So let's ask ourselves, what are the most powerful words in this text? So I'm going to highlight bitter cry, an outcast and stranger in my own house. I think that really moves a person to understanding Du Bois' point of view. But before I move on, I want to make sure this is the best piece of evidence to use to prove my point. So I'm going to compare it to the claim. Du Bois fails to offer any solution for the main problems he outlines. So I'm trying to prove that this is the problem that he is outlining is a huge problem: racism, hate, and the damage done by slavery. Now there's another place where I could use this, and this is where he talks about, "Then it dawned upon me with a certain suddenness that I was different from the others, or like mayhap in heart and life and longing, but shut out from the world by a vast veil." Shut out from the world by a vast veil. This also kind of shows, the same things, and it shows that the racism is a huge problem, and it shows the hurt and anger that goes along with this. Now I could talk about the veil, but I may want to use this later on the paper, and it doesn't show as much desperation and power, I think, in is the second quote, which really draws a picture of a desperate person, one who would call upon God saying he is unwanted on earth. So let's see if we can write this down. Dubois starts his work with a bitter cry, asking God why he must be an outcast and a stranger in my own house. But then I have to ask myself, am I only quoting 5 to 7 words? Here at the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's only 2 words, but can we make it stronger? He starts his work with a bitter cry, asking God why he must be an outcast and a stranger in the place he lives. It just seems like we made a minor change, but we want to make sure that we're not relying too much on the author's argument, because otherwise it's going to look like we're not crafting our own argument. We want to show in our paper that we're understanding and we understood what he was writing. So, as we continue to gather evidence for both the claim and the counterclaim, we're going to repeat this process. And it's important to pick out the best evidence for both the claim and the counterclaim in order to be fair. And this way our audience is going to trust us. If we just pick out anything or quote too much, we're really going to look like we are not crafting an argument of our own, but just, repeating what the author says. So, this way we are generating and planning. And next we're going to revise and edit. So let's highlight places where the text discusses our claim or counterclaim. And then we asked, is this the best piece of evidence or text to support my thoughts? And then finally we paraphrase the statement using only 5 to 7 words of direct quotation. In this lesson you have learned to develop claims and counterclaims by selecting relevant evidence.